Hi everyone. Yesterday I attended the NRMA and New South Wales Government EV Fleet Day. There were great tips about charging and purchasing electric cars for local, state, federal governments and businesses, small and large, as well as lots of new interesting electric cars on display.
Yeah, my presentation will just cover some of the where things are at now, how we've gotten here, and where we're heading. Cool. So Australia's national EV fleet, we're approaching 220,000 electric vehicles. What's interesting about this figure is since December last year, the fleet has grown by 41%. It goes to show how much appetite there really is for electric cars. We know it's starting from a low base, but it's getting there, and there's a lot of new product that's about to launch, a lot of new models for passenger cars, but also like commercial vehicles, some of which you'll actually get to see for the very first time out there today. So it's pretty exciting to be part of this event. We'll cover a bit more on what's going on with the models very soon, but one thing I want to highlight is the pricing of electric vehicles is coming down. It's getting to a stage where there's certain models now that are on par, if not some of them with the features they have, are priced a bit better than their petrol counterparts. And that trend is only going to go down. So I think MG's got a ZS EV at the moment for 35 grand, and an MG4 hatchback for around about under 40 as well, and there's a lot more of those models coming into the market soon. Looking specifically at New South Wales, out of the nearly 20,000 vehicles, 66,500 of them are sitting in New South Wales at the moment. And New South Wales is leading the way when it comes to electric vehicles. I come from the state of Victoria, and yeah, it's in a different lane, in the fast lane with the way EV uptake has gone here. Partially, it's to do with some of the good work that the team has been doing in rolling out some of those incentives, including the ones that Kevin touched on earlier, plus charging infrastructure and the grants that are going out there to roll out fast public chargers, as well as look at those accommodation and your apartment charging. There's some of the problems that the community has highlighted, so that's where the focus has been. And that's, all that work is starting to come into play when it comes to people feeling confident enough as consumers, but also as fleets in starting to get onto the transition towards electrification. The models. I'm a car person. That's what you see here, all of these cars that are currently available in the market. These are EV sales in 2024 so far, first 8 months. One very interesting point is if you look at the models that have got sales in purple up there, they are the top 5 best-selling electric car models in the market, and every single one of them was made in China. We'll touch a bit more on the China story and what's going on there very shortly. Tesla, BYD, MG, some of them are becoming sort of household names, some of them are still a little bit new. One other interesting point worth noting is there's probably maybe 2 or 3 Japanese models on there. So it goes to show the real difference in terms of where a lot of the electric vehicles are currently coming from. And this is true for passenger cars, but it's also going to be true for commercial vehicles, which we're starting to get a few of, and some of them are out there to see. Governments, obviously, there's a big focus to try and get more EVs on the road within the state, but also within the government's own fleet. And there's obviously targets set there to ensure that the lead by example, and that's where things are heading as well. So that is another area where more fleet-friendly vehicles are starting to come in, and they are approaching not only business fleets, council fleets, but also government fleets as well. China and EV brands. There's a lot happening in that space. Just to put into perspective, in the next 6 months, we're going to have 10 new car brands that very few have heard of. And they're all coming in with models that either have European designers behind them, European engineers, and they're all building them to a quality standard, which some of them are out there, you get to see very soon. I was in China in June, and this was on a racetrack. This car here, Zeekr, which is one of the brands coming into the market, not bringing this particular model, but this one is 1200 horsepower, 0-100 in under 2 seconds. You can drive the wheels of that car pretty easily. But that sort of shows the direction that they're heading in terms of really targeting the sports car market and the markets that traditionally were very difficult and dominated by the Europeans. The Chinese can do them, and they're showing that they can do it better as well. And that's what they're bringing across all of their lineup of vehicles. That's interesting to see in terms of how quickly that's happened. You know, there's a pre-COVID world and there's a post-COVID world. And they're two very different worlds when it comes to electric vehicles. And the stuff coming out of there is very, very high quality. Like I said, some of it is out there worth checking out. They are doing a lot when it comes to innovating. And innovating on things that are desirable by not only Chinese consumers, but by everybody else around the world. That means that some of the technologies in the cars we may not be familiar with, but are there to make it easier for us, whether it's to charge the vehicle, whether it's to drive it. All of them are coming with 5-star NCAP rating pretty much, and that's pretty hard. I think we had a Jeep recently with their Jeep Avenger that has just been announced that it got 3 stars with Euro NCAP in 2024, where pretty much most vehicles that are coming out of China at the moment 5-star, which is very important to fleets, of course. More broadly speaking, there's a lot more strategic partnerships that are going on. So you've got large companies, the owner of Jeep, Stellantis, they're bringing in electric vehicle models by brands that they have purchased a stake in China. Leapmotor is one that has just started to do a bit of testing in Australia, but they will be delivering cars by November. So a lot of these brands that are coming in, the 10 in the next 6 months that I've sort of touched on earlier, they will either have cars by Q4 this year or first quarter of 2025. And they're starting to make bigger cars as well, aimed for mainstream sort of consumers. Still priced in sort of $50,000 and $60,000 mark. So yeah, these vehicles are maybe some of the vehicles that, you know, staff in organizations may be exploring as well as they're looking at, you know, their own transition to EVs. MG's got a sports car that's currently doing a bit of a roadshow around the country, but it's supposed to be, I think, available to consumers early next year. A different segment, probably not, you know, something that fleets are too interested in, but maybe something for the weekend. Chery, they came into the market a couple of years ago with a little $10,000 or $11,000 car, and I think they left before they came. So that was very short-lived. But anyway, they've come back. They've taken, I think, close to 10 years, and they're back now. I was in Canberra driving the new E5. The petrol version of the Chery Omoda is already been out for just over 12 months now. The E5 is the electric version. Drives pretty well. It's around $45,000. And that touches on that earlier point I was making around pricing coming down. These are brand new models that are coming out for, you know, 40 to 45 grand. And it means that as there's more competition, the prices naturally start to come down. So that's something to look forward to as you're transitioning or starting to look at your fleet. The market's moving pretty quickly, and the options are only increasing at price points which are getting closer to what some may pay for their existing fleet. Leapmotor is the car I touched on, 4.7 meters, the size of Model Y or X-Plane G6, RAV4 maybe. That is fully loaded car from what I can understand. Price hasn't been revealed yet, but it should be under 50 grand. Ground up electric car, and being bought in by Stellantis. So being a global company, they must know a thing or two about launching brands, and they wouldn't dip their toes into a brand or collaborate with them unless it was a quality product. So it's really being pushed in Australia by Stellantis, the owners of Jeep and Chrysler. Zeekr, I touched on them earlier. Zeekr X is another model that will be coming in, being launched in Sydney next month at South by Southwest Festival in October. So I went to China looking at their production facilities, looking at their battery plants back in June, and that photo on the track as well. And one of the things I can sort of clearly see is that all of these brands are serious. Zeekr is owned by a company called Geely. They will be coming on their own next year as well. They will have another set of SUVs and other products, including a Ute, which they may bring. But yeah, time will tell. So a lot of these brands are producing scalable vehicles that have high levels of quality. One of the things I saw, and it sort of blew my mind, in this one factory, they were producing the Zeekr X, they were producing Volvo EX30, they were producing Smart, all owned by the same company. And these are all small SUVs. But at the same time, they were producing Volvo EM90, which is a people mover, nearly 5.5 meters long. Same production line. They're all doing it. Drive units, batteries, everything is scalable, and there were very few people around this factory. All automated. There's robots running around doing whatever they can do, and everything else that needs to be behind enclosures it is, and it's all European production, robotic arms, and all of this sort of stuff. So it's very, very cool to see that, you know, the type of vehicles we're getting are going to be made at that level of production. Bit of a repeat there. Commercial models. Peugeot last year launched their e-Partner, which was sort of a Volkswagen Caddy size type of a light commercial van. Now they're going to be bringing in the e-Expert, I think Q4, and then Ford e-Transit is also coming to our market as well in 2025. There's a big focus on this, and there's a lot of other models that are either here already or we don't know about, but by the time we find out about them a couple of months later, they've landed. So the market is moving very, very quickly, and it's good to sort of be aware of what's going on out there, and just keep an eye out, because it is changing very quickly, which can make the job a little bit harder as fleet managers around what's coming and what sort of vehicles would be right for transitioning. But start with something small in terms of maybe your light passenger vehicle fleet, and then think about the other applications as well. Tembo, haven't heard a lot about them, but apparently they're coming. So that's another that's electric Ute they'll be bringing into the market. And Iveco, I guess a better known brand, is bringing their e-Daily, as well as a couple of other models in 2025. Touching on sort of production of these vehicles, I touched on earlier on what the level of production and the scale of production that's going on in China and other places. What would be really interesting is, now that there's tariffs in other parts of the world on Chinese vehicles, what that does to the supply of vehicles in Australia, because we are already gone the COVID days where you're waiting 18 months to 2 years for a RAV4. These vehicles generally are available within a couple of weeks. So talk to the OEMs, and you get a pretty good idea of what that looks like. There are some models that have been delayed. Kia's EV5 has been delayed for a while, but hopefully we'll hear a bit more and can land here before the end of the year. So lots of things happening, but increased competition in not only the Chinese market, but also in the Australian market would mean better prices, and hopefully bringing in products at all different ends of the segments, so that it's not just hatchbacks and SUVs. There's more to it than that. EVs and charging infrastructure. Charging infrastructure is very important, not only when charging at the depots, but also thinking about what is the backup, and the backup is the public charging network. The public fast charging network has grown pretty significantly. In June last year, there were 581 sites, and last couple of months, they've grown pretty significantly. We're over 1,000 fast charging sites in the country now, and nearly 2,000 fast charging points. So that's really interesting. One of the reasons behind this increase has been in the state of New South Wales, where there's co-funding by the state government, has encouraged a lot of private operators like Tesla, BP and others to really take the state seriously and actually put chargers in the ground to help support how quickly EVs are increasing in terms of sales and adoption within the state. I think what government's done and what they're doing is having an impact. So it's worth knowing that there's always going to be fast charging and slow charging options across the state. Well, I sort of went through this already, but yeah, the charging infrastructure is definitely increasing pretty rapidly. One of the more interesting things is that utilization of chargers is also improving. A lot of the charging companies won't put chargers in the ground because too much capital investment and you're not really getting the usage. That's no longer really a problem because there's so many cars out there that need to charge. It's improving quite significantly. I think this is probably one of my final little slides. Predicting EV adoption is hard. And at the end of every year, I sit with my team and we figure out where things are going to go. So before Christmas last year, we thought we'll get over 250,000 vehicles and we're being optimistic. We're gonna well surpass that by the end of this year. So, and it's happened a couple of times the last couple of years, and it goes to show that the market is really ready for this new technology, and the new models coming into the market, it's only going to accelerate further. And that's it. It's me. Thank you.